All right, we are going to be starting lesson 5, measuring courses and distances. And for this activity, you are going to need an aviation plotter. That's what this is. And that's about it, because everything you need is going to be in your student notebook, so you'll also need that handy as well. And I want to start out this video by first telling you that plotting courses and distances can be extremely frustrating. And you're not probably going to get it the first time. It takes a lot of practice and a lot of patience and a lot of probably rewatching this video over and over and over again. But please know that if you don't get it, that teachers are always available to help you out. And if you do need the help, please ask for it and don't try to just struggle your way through it, because eventually you will be plotting your course that you will be flying in Tucson. I want to take this moment to remind you that this is extremely important for this lesson and every lesson following this. If you haven't already copied this down, please pause this video and copy it somewhere so that it's handy for you to look at as you're going through this lesson. All right, we're back at our student notebook. I have my plotter, I have my notebook. Actually, turn to the next page where you're going to see something that should look familiar to you from the last lesson. This is the plotting grid, and it has a bunch of circles on it. So before we get started, you're going to kind of review what you know about plotting, and you're going to use the coordinates up here to plot the points. And the circles are there as a good guide for you to show you that point A should be somewhere in the middle of that circle, point B should be somewhere in the middle of the point B circle, and C and D, of course, is the same as A and B. So if for any reason you don't remember how to plot the points, or you need a little bit of review, I'm going to go ahead and plot these points with you, or you can skip ahead, skip past me until I'm done. So point A is at 38 degrees 20 minutes. So 38 degrees, I'm going up, not down, and that helps that I have my circle there too. So 38 degrees, so I'm starting here and I'm going up 20 minutes. 5, 10, 15, 20. Then it shows me going 119 degrees and 40 minutes west. Well, if I go this way, I'd be going down to 118, but 119 and 40 is more than 119, so I'm going to be going this way. So here I am at my 38:20 mark, and now I'm going to go to 1940. So 19, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. And I'm going to find where these two meet, and that's where I'm going to put my dots. So that's right here and here. Okay, so now we've plotted all of our points and we're ready to start figuring out our course and measuring distances. So we're going to take a really close look at our plotter next. This is a really close-up view of our aviation plotter. So this portion of the aviation plotter kind of looks like a protractor, and you're going to see some various rings that have different numbers on it, different degrees, and you'll notice those from the little directions that I showed you earlier. If you're going northeast, it's between 0 and 90. That's going to kind of tell you which ring you're going to be looking at as you're measuring, and I'll show you how to use that a little bit later. Also, along your aviation plotter, you're going to have like a ruler that does nautical miles and statute miles. So for all of these exercises, we're going to be reading the nautical miles, not the statute miles. And this is used just like a ruler. The plotter itself, the protractor portion of the plotter, is a little bit more difficult to use. But what's important to note here is the line that goes right at the bottom of the protractor and at the top of the ruler. And that is what you're going to put along your course line. Now we're back to our plotting grid that has our 4 points that are plotted. And we're also going to look at the actual lesson questions for this lesson while we're doing this. So you can flip back and forth, or you can have them side by side. So for number 1, it asks, what is the course from point A to point C? Well, the first thing we have to do is draw a line from point A to point C. You never want to do this just freehanding. You always want to make sure it's as straight of a line as possible. I like to use the edge of my plotter as like a ruler, or you can use an actual ruler. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to connect these two dots using my pencil. Okay, so now I have a straight line going from point A to point C. And the very, very first thing that I want to do is go, what direction am I traveling from point A to point C? And I want to go back and look at my directions that I wrote down. Now I'm going to just draw mine kind of in the up here so that you can see it. But remember, I'm drawing my north, south, east, and west. And between here, I know I'm going to be 0 to 90. I'm going to be 90 to 180. I'm going to be 180 to 270. And I'm going to be 270 to 360. So the reason I wanted you to write this down was because take a look at the angle that we're going here. If I was going to put point A right in the middle, what direction would this line be going in? It would be going southeast. That's going to tell me that because my line falls in this area, that I'm looking for a degree between 90 and 180. So let's get a little closer to our line, and we're going to start setting up our plotter. Now, a good rule of thumb for using the plotter is that you're going to want to place your plotter, you're going to want to place this dot right here in the middle of your protractor somewhere along the halfway point, but it has to be, that dot has to be where the two lines intersect. So where your line meets one of the longitude lines or one of the latitude lines. So right along this line, remember I told you that line was really important. We're going to line that up with the line that we drew. Okay? Then I'm going to, once this is all lined up with my course, I'm going to take that dot and I'm going to put it right where my two lines meet. One of the dark black lines and then one of my pencil line. So those two meet. And then what we have is this nice solid black line that points exactly to a degree. So for me, this is pointing at 140. So for number one, I'm going to put 140 degrees. That is the course. So when you're talking about course, you're always talking about degrees. Now, if you look really close or if you make a little bit of a mistake, you're going to see either 141, 142, 139. Just know every single time that you plot that it does not have to be perfect. It can be a few degrees off. So even though I got 140, it's totally okay if you got 141, 142, 139, 138. As long as you're super close to me, that's really all we care about. Number two, what is the course from point B to point D? So I just used my plotter to connect the two lines, B to D. So now that I have my line, my straight line, I'm going to think back to my little directions here. And if I put point B right in the center, where would my line go? It would go in this direction. So it would go southwest. So I know that my degrees are going to be somewhere between 180 and 270. So again, using the plotter, I'll zoom in a little bit here. I am going to use this line here to line it up with the line that I drew, just like that. And then I'm going to look at my dot and put that where the latitude line meets the line that I drew. So I'm going to use this one here, lining that up nicely. And now this line here doesn't make any sense because it's not starting at my point here. I need to read this latitude line. And remember, I know that my answer is going to be somewhere between 180 degrees and 270 degrees. So if I read it right here on this outer circle, I'm going to see right between 140 and 150, which would be 145. And that is not correct because it needs to be between 180 and 270. So because this outer ring didn't work, I'm going to try the next ring. And then that puts me right between 320 and 330, so about 325. Again, that's still not working for me because it needs to be between 180 and 270. So I'm going to move down to the next line. And right here, right above this one here, you're going to see some numbers. And it starts right here at 270. Oh no, one more down. 180. And then I'm going to start counting. So 190, 200, 210, 220, 230, 240. Well, what's right between 230 and 240? That would be 235 degrees. Now remember, just because my course from point B to point D is 235 degrees, that doesn't mean that you can't put 236 or 237. It does not have to be perfect as long as it's super close. Moving on to number 3. What is the course and distance from C to A? So we already have a line from C to A from number 1. So this time, instead of going from A to C, I'm traveling from C to A. So my total direction changes, my course changes. So if I were to pretend to put point C in the middle of my directions here and redraw my line, it would be northwest, which means I now am changing my course to somewhere between 270 degrees and 360 degrees. So for this one, I'm using my plotter the same exact way, lining up the bottom with the line that I drew, and then making sure that my dot is where the two lines intersect. So once I get that lined up, then I'm going to read my directions here. Now I know, because I'm traveling northwest, I'm going to be between 270 and 360. So if I look at this line, it tells me exactly 140. That doesn't work, so I need to go to the next ring. And it says 320 degrees. And that is what I'm looking for. So from point C to point A, I'm going about 320 degrees. It also asks for distance, and this is where you get to use your nautical miles. And you use this just like you would use a ruler. So here's my 0. I'm going to put 0 on point A, and then I'm going to measure my line all the way to point C, and it shows me at about 27 miles. So 27 or 28 nautical miles, either one of those answers would work. And again, I'm just using this as a ruler. Moving on to number 6, because of course the book is misprinted and it doesn't have a number 5. What is the course and distance from point A to point B? We do not have a line drawn for this, and I'm gonna have to go right through this guy, but that's all right. I'm gonna go from point A to point B, and I'm going to draw a line. I'm going to use the plotter to plot the course. So here's that. And then if I go this way, I'm looking at about 84 degrees. So my course is going to be 84 degrees. Now I need to measure the nautical miles, or the distance. So I'm going to go from 0 to, oh, that's almost exactly 35 nautical miles. So for number 6, which should be number 5, I got 84 degrees and 35 nautical miles. Number 7 brings up variation. It says, if the variation from point A to point B is minus 12, what would the magnetic course from point A to point B be? So I'm going to take what I got for my course, which was 84 degrees. And let's see, I'll write this over here. It was 84 degrees. All I have to do to measure the variation is take what I got for my course and minus 12. So it would be 72 degrees.